My name is Aidan. I'm a 28-year-old marketing director who will always prefer bluntness and honesty over niceties. I'm trying to convince my friend David and bring him into the closest thing I've ever had to a religion, which is this search for truth, this idea that there is a objective reality outside of all of us that we can all relate to.
And I'm David, a 21-year-old creative writer, freelance writer, and person who does other things. And it's my belief that it's very hard to prove, if not impossible to prove, that there's an objective reality.
The best way I could think to convince David or prove to him there is an objective reality is by searching through our own lives and the information around us to find these through lines of truth, these little nuggets of truth that can be shared with other people. And the more people that can connect and identify with these truths that have completely different stories and backgrounds than us, the more it builds consensus that there is something objective outside of us we can all relate to.
Let's just go back. Let's start over and go through the whole thing again. So,
Sure.
what was the initial question that you asked?
Well, I mean, the initial question was, what is your epistemology for travel? Meaning, what are the underlying truths that make you want to travel? Or what is sort of, where do you derive your logic from when it concerns your desire to explore and travel places?
Yes. Yeah.
And
I said
yeah.
that I believe that there's an objective reality,
That was the first thing you said.
to help me sort of prove that, I need to go out and meet people from as many different perspectives as possible, because if something is true for me and for them, and we've had a completely different life and live in completely different places,
Yes.
it helps me prove. It gives consensus to my belief that there's an objective reality.
So it was at that moment that it occurred to me that, I guess you'd say that system, but I'm going to say more so that like that equation for approaching reality is watertight for a few reasons. One, as far as having a reason to travel, in my opinion, I would want something that didn't pull the value from the system directly from the result being travel. And in other words, the value of the value system shouldn't be the thing that I'm trying to do, because then I don't really have underlying principles. That should be.
I mean, going back to like an old idiom,
Yeah.
it's putting value on the journey, not the destination.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, that is when I had a small eureka. I don't usually like to tell myself that I'm having eureka moments, because it feels like I'm giving it too much weight. But you start with an empirical reality, start with something that you can observe and study. It's a consensual reality that all people agree on. Then, to explore more of reality, to make sense of reality, to learn more about it, you gather information. What's the best way that you do that? By meeting other people. And if it is, again, a consensual reality, which it is, then the only way that you can make that consensus bigger for yourself is meeting more people. And then it occurred to me, again...
Yeah, it's all you're doing is looking for a consensus.
Exactly.
And the more people that see this one thing that we all have in common, the more proof it gives towards the fact that there is truth. It makes it true. And that's all that I like. That's really all that I look for, is like things that are true.
Sure. I guess my point is, if the main way for gathering data is meeting other people, that requires that you explore the world.
Yes.
It requires that you travel.
It requires adventure.
Yes. And that was beautiful to me. That is beautiful to me, because that means you're not traveling just for the sake of traveling. You have to travel to gather information. So your reason for traveling isn't like this trope of a guy being like, I'm going to go to California and become a screenwriter just because. Or I'm going to travel because... I'm going to be a different data point on my friends list on Facebook. Your reason that you described to me for traveling is that's the one of the most necessary paths for learning more about your reality. You kind of have to. So that, I just think that's solid. That's why I literally just drew it for myself, because I think that may be kind of an airtight, unpunctured system. I mean, honestly, dude, I would treat this like an RPG.
I mean, you treat everything like an RPG.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's also just one of those things where there isn't a lot of drawbacks. There isn't a lot of negatives that happen to it. Like you get so many positives. Like one of the biggest things that I got from traveling a lot and especially doing it on my own was you learn how to trust your gut. Like you work that muscle of like your gut and your intuition, and you can look at a situation and know like this feels like there's just this feeling of like this is thumbs up. Like, this is safe. This is going to work out well. Like this is going to be good. And then you can have that opposite where it's like this is a no. And you get to the point where you can do that instantly without having to think about like should I do this? Is this okay? Is this sketchy? Like you can then just be like walk forwards and not have to think about it.
So having a smarter gut is like learning from the people around you what to and what not to avoid. And when it becomes just muscle memory to you, then it becomes intuition. Is that kind of what you mean? Like
yeah.
Certain like principles of reality that you learn through other people agreeing that those are principles of reality build your intuition. And the more that they work, the more you say, oh, I avoid alleys in X through Z.
Yeah. But it happens in way more subtle ways. Like you can one thing you want to do when you're traveling is just say yes to a lot of stuff and try new things, and that's how you sort of open it up and meet new people and create better consensus, because it takes you somewhere where you're not around people who are just like you. Because you can travel anywhere in the world and stay in
a bubble.
Yeah, and you can stay in like the travel bubble and like this hostel street full of hostels and only meet people from your country or Western countries and or only meet people who are in a similar sort of background situation as you, and you can stay in that the whole time and travel an entire country going from place to place to place in that country and only meet people who are like you.
I want to ask you, when you've traveled in the past and you met other people, of those people, which of them took you off your path? Like not physical path necessarily, but like which of them took you off the path that you thought you were going down? Not just by telling you a smart insight, but do you ever remember a time like doing the approach you just talked about and then discovering that the path you were taking was not the one you were wanting to take?
Interesting. I mean, there's a lot of like depths to that. So for example, when I was in Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh, in Saigon, I would go to this park out front of my hostel every day, and I would sit with these old men in the park, like playing cigarettes and drinking beer, and they taught me how to play Chinese chess. They didn't speak the same language at all, and I would just go and like learn a little bit more every day, to the point where I would like go out there and we'd all know each other, no words, because we didn't speak the same language, and I would sit there like you squat on the grass, put the Chinese chessboard in the middle, and like would just chain smoke cigarettes and then play. And one day this guy came up to me on a scooter and he's like, "Get on." And that's one of these situations where you're like, is this sketchy? Am I going to die? What is this? And I got on the back of his scooter and he just rode for like 15 minutes, like up on sidewalks and like down alleyways. And like, so like, I had no idea where I was. I wasn't going to walk back to wherever I started from.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking in my head, like, this is either going to be the best day of my life or I'm going to die.
The last day.
Yeah. But my gut was worked up enough where I felt like this is something I want to do. Like, this is worth it. He ended up taking me to his house and showed me his 3 wives. One was like 18, one was like 32, and one was like 65. And he just kept pointing at them and being like, "Big titties!" Like, that's the only thing he knew was big titties. And he like
of his English.
Yeah, he's big titties. And like he kept like doing magic tricks. Like he showed me how to like cut a lime open with like a folded piece of paper, and like it was just this crazy day where like we went out and bought a bunch of beers, and we were just like me, and we're smoking cigarettes and drinking beer at this guy's house. And then like as the sun went down, he goes, "Okay," and he puts me back on his bike and he drops me right back off at the park. And it was like one of the best days of just by like going out and just being with these people every day, and like what are you guys doing? I want to be a part of that. Took me on this crazy adventure that I never would have had otherwise. and all I had to do was just across the street from that little bubble of like the hostel.
That guy sounds like Vietnamese you. Like, hear me out for a second. Like, the guy picks you up probably on a whim. I mean, sounds like on a whim unless he's been like scheduling this. He brings you to his house, shares with you all this stuff, his personal life.
Yeah, just like things that he thought I would like things that he like is proud of.
Yeah.
And he had like a one room house with like a bed that was shoved against the wall, and they put it down to sleep, and like a little tea. Like it was a very minuscule living, but like it was just that, like he wanted to show me the things that he was proud of.
I mean, but it's funny because that sounds almost too good to be true in the sense that he acted out of the intuition that you want other people to act out of when you're traveling. I'm assuming that they're like willing and excited to share with you the information that you kind of feel that you need to grow.
Yeah,
you know,
no
like
ulterior motive. Like he wasn't trying to sell me anything or
he was there just to share
anything,
data with you, like just to share stuff.
Because you will get that a lot of like, you know, people will take advantage of you because you come from a place of higher means. They see you as dollar signs that they can like extract something out of. So like that's a thing that happens just. But like this was it was just very pure.
Yeah.
And like just nice, and all it took was just sort of crossing the street. So just little things like that will just sort of happen, and they'll take you out of your path. And it's knowing, building that gut muscle to be like, this is the one I want to try. Because at first you'll go with like you don't know, and then you'll get scammed and fucked over a couple times, and that's the fastest way to train that gut. Is you'll be able to see patterns and signs and behavior and things that you need to know in advance, or like ways that people act. And it's all these little like non-verbal cues and like things that you're able to pinpoint just by like, again, you have to. They come from the negative. They come from the fuck ups. They come from when you're wrong, when your gut's wrong.
So this is perfect. Okay. Life starts in infancy and then on to death. Travel you've described in your Wonder Junkies adventures as. Or you organize the Wonder Junkies episodes as birth,
childhood, adolescence, adulthood. Yeah, and then coming home is death.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you start off as a kid, you know nothing because...
Oh, dude, I didn't know how to use the bathrooms. The toilets were different. They're on the floor, and you squat over them, and they have these like bum guns. I don't know how to cross the street. I didn't know how to like purchase things. You
have no better way to practice intuition than by being a child in a foreign country.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like and you talk about,
you just fuck up and like, I don't do that. Oh, got it.
Yeah, I don't wear shoes inside.
Yeah, my buddies in high school were like big longboarders, and he said this thing to me where you get better at longboarding by falling and learning how to not fall that exact same way again.
That's good.
And the next time you fall, it's because you tweaked that and you did something a little different, and you fall, and you're like, oh, now I can't fall this way and this way.
Yeah, that's
really good. And then you
do
it again, and you fall, and you go, okay, now I have 3 ways I know how to not fall in the same way.
Yeah.
And you just keep building that up, and then you're good. When you just learn how to not fall in all these very specific ways, that's what makes you good at skateboarding.
That's fun.
It's not actually being good at skateboarding. It's learning how to not make the same mistake twice.
Yeah, I mean, that redefines mistake a little bit. Because if I'm experimenting with a rat in a maze, every time it bumps into the wall, I can't necessarily... I mean, that doesn't have to be the rat bumping into the wall. It could be just a wall has been made aware of.
Yes.
And then each time it bumps into a wall...
It knows how to not to bump into just that wall.
Yes.
You just get that one wall. And that's why it's a slow process.
And if
like,
there are 3
getting
walls,
good at things
then
is
it's
hard.
not going to hit... Each wall that it hits, it won't hit the same one, and then has to...
Yeah, it'll keep hitting walls. It just won't hit the same wall.
Which
and
means
that's
it
all
will
that
move
it is.
forward.
Yeah, and that's what building your gut is you go like, oh, fuck, I got scammed by doing that. I trusted that person when like and now I see all these red flags that I didn't see. I see them in hindsight that I didn't see in the moment, and now you know how to look for those. So you know how to not get scammed that exact same way.
It occurs to me that one of the best apparently a lot of stuff is occurring to me today. But when you're traveling, that seems like the time for Masaka building. Or better yet,
it's not even
with this system, you're like guaranteed to build really like solid, even like concrete masakas. Like the intuition one. You might say intuition's an abstraction, but like I can picture that vividly as being a masaka that you have.
Yeah. For
that's
sure.
Cool.
And it's not that I guess it is the best time for masaka building, but it is because when you're traveling, everything is just so not elevated, but like going at a faster pace.
Yeah.
What's another word for that? Like accelerated. Everything's so accelerated because like you, again, like I lived a whole lifetime of like childhood, birth, death, that whole thing in 6 months. And when you are meeting people, everyone is in this sort of vulnerable state where they're all sort of somewhere unsteady. So it cuts through bullshit quicker, and you have these like very accelerated relationships with people where you'll literally, someone will feel like you've known them your whole life after 3 days because you have such vulnerable, you're both equally vulnerable, so you don't, there's no like mystique of like I've got this under control. You're both just trying to figure it out. So it allows for more open, quicker, less judgmental. Like it just allows for a much more accelerated.
You've accepted death.
Yeah, exactly. You both accepted death, so it allows for such a progressed. Like you can fall in love. It's like it's almost a magical quality to it.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't. You don't have all these stigmas of security and like everyone's unsafe and uncertain and unsteady. So you're all in that together. So you can you're already on the same page. So you just move forward together.
I mean, not just on a I'm meeting people while I'm traveling scale, but on a you're alone in your apartment and realize that you have a lifeline scale. It seems to me that the more that you practice those little deaths through small interactions while you travel, the closer you get to accepting your personal actual like mortality. Because you're saying like, because I just visualized a timeline, and there's this small sliver where you meet that guy in Vietnam, for instance, and that relationship went and died. And that made you aware of your mortality when you did that. But you do that enough times, and you're just like, oh, fuck. I'm not even scared of death anymore. I can just keep doing this. Like, it would seem that
for
way,
sure.
Right?
There was a thing that I always used to say back in the day. It was like my favorite thing about travel is you'll meet someone and have this like really great or terrible moment with them. Like it's this thing that you guys both share that you don't share with anyone else in the entire world but that person, and then you leave and never see each other again. And I don't know if I still do anymore. And I don't know why. It's something that doesn't click with me as much. But I thought that was the most like beautiful and poetic thing ever. That like it's just like this person that you had no idea existed. You guys share this one thing with each other that you don't share with anyone else in the entire world, and then you never see each other again. But you both, you know, the other person will always have this thing that you had, this memory, this moment that you guys had together. Like you know they'll remember it, and they know you'll remember it, and that's enough of a connection to like it being okay to never see them again.
Not to force the Misaka concept here, but every small relationship that you have is just a great example of Misaka. You guys are both left with one. I mean, even if it's like, I don't know.
It's like that moment Misaka almost.
Yeah. I mean, and then it comes back to your love of the moment. I mean, would you say that your love of the moment is through that acceleration of time? Like, I mean, I guess what I mean is you learn to value the moment when you know that things have expiration.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Otherwise, why would you value the moment? If it was permanent, why value it? Yeah. It's.
This is the most excited I've seen you. Like, I mean, and I mean that in such an era of like, I'm glad, because I can see now, I think more than ever, why you love travel. What that means to you, because I formerly didn't,
and when I'm sort of seeing now, yeah, for sure. But I've always been so attracted to like nuggets and wisdom and like little condensed moments of like something powerful. And traveling gives you just like, man, it gives you so many of those so much faster.
Yeah,
that like it's a very like bite-sized yet real, way to live your life. Yeah, I don't know, I like it.
It's
fucking like it.
Fucking positive addictions 101.
It is a positive addiction,
yeah.
But like, I mean,
I say addiction nicely.
Yeah, there are some negative parts to it. Like when you come back, you have no one to share those moments with. Like I have these stories that I can tell about like ladyboys and crazy things that happen.
So is this not a beautiful basis for why you want to travel with someone? Like, is there any other case where you don't have a dearth of experience between someone else than if you take someone else and you travel the world with them?
Oh, for sure.
Is there any other case? Think about like a
That's all-
fucking married couple.
That's my
like
dream.
working 2 separate jobs.
And that's also because like that's something I've really, really, really wanted in my life lately is like having that other person to have this like shared lifeline of existence with. Because like there is something sad about you come back. And that's why I used to think that was like the best of having that. Remember I said like that little moment where you guys meet and then you like that after so many times it started to lose its poetry, its meaning. Because like I now yearn for someone to share that with. Yeah, and that's like.
Why do you think you haven't had that yet?
Someone to share it with.
Okay, so I mean, you had the guy that you went on the one restructuring.
Well, yeah, I've had moments that I share like sections and moments.
But I mean,
I want to share the whole thing.
I mean the whole thing. Yeah. I mean, why do you think you haven't had that? If that matters to even talk about.
I mean, I guess it does. I have a lot of unwritten rules and really high standards and expectations for myself.
Yourself and others.
Yeah, and I also apply those rules to other people. And not a lot of people can fit into those rules. And it's not that like that means I'm better than them, but I just have a different set of rules that I live by than they do. And I guess I don't think I'd be able to do that with someone who doesn't also share that rule set.
Well, so I'm curious to know what some of those rules are.
I mean, just like I've always wanted to write a book of just like 75 unwritten rules for life. But I guess I think the easiest way to just give some basic ones are my 2 biggest pet peeves. And that are when someone asks you a question and they don't actually care about the answer.
That leans on the information getting thing.
And that happens a lot.
I fucking hate that.
It happens a lot when someone's like asks you a question and like I just don't answer those questions.
Well, how do you feel about that? And you're like, there's so obvious that you have
you don't actually want to know the answer to that question. And that's why I don't talk about myself a lot, because I usually don't feel like people asking me about myself actually want to know the answers.
That makes
sense. So I usually don't talk about myself. And the second one is when you say you're going to do something, you do it. Period. No excuses. Period. And that one is tough. Because I definitely hold that bothers me when people don't do that.
That's hard.
And it's a really unfair standard.
The board for yourself.
It's hard for me to do even myself, and I'm not perfect, but
you want it to be hard. That's good that it's a hard fucking.
But that's a very unfair standard to hold other people to, and I totally do. It really bothers me when someone's like,
I'll be there, and they don't,
or like saying yes to that, or like that sounds fun. And then it's like they just like the idea of talking about it, and then I'm like, okay, you ready? Let's go tomorrow.
It's like a fucking dad who never sees his kid on his birthday. You know, it's like I'll be there.
It is kind of that crushing feeling. Like he didn't show up to my baseball game when
he never does. Yeah,
it is. It does give me that. It crushes me a little bit because it's like it goes back to this thing of truth. Like if you ask a question, you should know the answer. That's like true. If you like say you're going to do something, like if you don't have your word, what do you have? Like, how can I trust? Where's the truth? Like, everything for me always just comes back to that, the word truth. So if there are things, so all my rules that I have, and one day I'll write them down. We'll do a full podcast. We'll go through all of them.
All 75.
But they all are things that like lead me towards truth. And on that bombshell,
shit, I'm not done. I mean, this is
for
fucking
sure.
Great. I mean, and you're constituting truth. I mean, you're describing truth. You're describing truth as what is consensually held in reality is true.
That's always been a tough one. I don't
like
think
if somebody lies to
found an explanation that I've loved or a definition. But yeah, it's things that give consensus to the something objective.
Right.
And I don't know where to even take that, but yeah.
So I tell you something that I don't actually mean.
Yeah.
Your problem with that is that I'm not.
You're not helping. You're not giving consensus to anything objective.
Okay.
You're actually detracting from the consensus.
Right.
Yeah. You're throwing a wrench into the experiment, and you're making it harder for me to find that consensus.
That makes a lot of sense. So what you're saying is that I put an object in your little in your universe or our universe, and then I don't like substantiate it with it being like with fact to make it be there.
You're diluting the formula.
Okay.
So then you're now I have like more steps to bring it back. Like you've back paced. We stepped back. So now I need to put in more work to even get back to where we were, to where I was.
Do you feel like you ask yourself enough questions?
No.
What motivates you to ask questions besides someone else asking you questions?
I mean, what motivates me to ask other people questions?
When you're listening to a podcast and Jordan Peterson asks Joe Rogan a question, do you ask yourself that same question? Do you picture yourself as Joe Rogan and ask yourself that same question?
No. I will listen to their answer and then evaluate that answer.
Do you feel that you have a blockage in that area of questioning yourself, and instead of questioning yourself, you just move through and then the question's answered by experience?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess you would call it a blockage, but I think that's just the way I've always answered questions. Was like,
that makes sense.
How can I answer a question to something I haven't experienced? So I just go. It's like this. My whole life is the spaghetti method, where you throw all the noodles on the wall and see which ones stick. So I'm just like, oh nope, that doesn't work. So I try a lot of things and I quit a lot of things.
Yeah.
Because the moment I realize it's not the right direction or path, or something feels off, or I'll stop and pivot. So my whole life is just a series of pivots. Trying to find this straight line to, I don't know, meaning and
just
truth of those
sperm.
things. I'm a sperm.
Or
just looking for the egg, baby.
As we all are.
Yeah.
And all were. And I genuinely am interested in this. Is there a...
I like that subconsciously you were like, he doesn't like when people ask questions they don't like the answer to, and then you preface it by saying, I'm genuinely interested in this this answer.
Yes. Fucking astute observation. So right. That's exactly what I did. Is there a value, or is there a thought you have, or a lifestyle tip that you have for yourself?
I don't have as many thoughts as people think I have.
Sure. But you have a lot of knowledge. You have knowledge. You have experience.
I have a lot of hindsight, so I can look. I can look back and go like, I tried that, it didn't work.
Yes.
But there was never that's really as far as the thought goes.
Right.
There's never any like thought before doing the thing.
Do you feel that you're contributing to that larger information map of the rest of the world by not thinking as much?
I think it allows me to. I think it allows me to collect nuggets more easily, because my brain, if my brain is a glass, I'm not constantly pouring water into it, so it's overflowing. You can only keep so much in the glass. So at some point, for something to go in, to go in, something else has to come out.
Right.
I don't have a memory palace. I just have a glass, and I can only have so many things in it at once. Like my RAM is. When my RAM is full, I don't take any. So it's by not thinking and just doing it, it allows me to be like, ooh, that's the nugget, and then just keep my memory is just nuggets of wisdom that I've stumbled over.
Wow. So your hard drive has been optimized. It is efficient. It's efficient.
It's just for wisdom. I don't even know if it's efficient, because I waste a lot of time doing things that I probably could have thought about not being a good idea.
But would you say the majority of the memories that you actually hold on to on a regular basis as your long-term memories are ones that are nuggets of truth and good information?
Yes, because they're not even memories about my life.
Yeah.
I don't even keep space in my brain for that. I barely remember my life, which is a really sad thing to say out loud.
It is, yeah, in a way.
And it's a sad thing when I think about it, but it's just full of these nuggets and one-liners and little. They're almost like little glimpses of truth,
right?
That I can say to someone. Like, I love the idea of being able to say this thing that I've compacted into this little gem and just say it to someone, and then a year later, they have an experience that makes that thing make sense, and they're like, "Oh, that thing that he said to me a year ago, I finally did the thing that allowed me to see what he meant by that."
So it seems like you're looking. It seems almost like your definition of truth. Which is, by the way, helping inform my sense of truth, is based on information that has a long half-life that doesn't decay right away.
To me, that's what makes it true.
Yes.
Right? If you can experience the same thing that allowed me to come up with this little one line. I'm trying to think of a good one that I always say. But if you can experience that in a year, and that thing, that little nugget of truth that I stumbled upon from something that I did 5 years ago, that makes it more true. That gives it consensus. But if I told you exactly what you needed to do to get this little piece of wisdom, it doesn't prove that it's true because you're just following my steps.
Right.
But if I can just give you this little nugget at the end, and you can and eventually you'll stumble into it on your own, it gives consensus to that nugget of wisdom being true.
Have you ever had a nugget that you thought you found for yourself that was thrown back at you and changed, proven wrong?
I'm sure that I have.
Right.
At the moment, I'm not even. After saying my brain is full of nuggets of truth, can't even think of a great one.
Yeah.
But yeah, even the things that we always talk about is everything comes back to balance. Every conversation that we have, it comes back to this thing of balance.
Definitely.
It's just little things like that. Again, I need to put all these down in a book too, because I'm just going to forget.
We
these
just need books.
Too.
We
Yeah.
just need a lot of books.
I need a book of my unwritten rules and my nuggets of truth.
Yes. More paper.
But yeah, I'm sure that's happened. If one pops into my head, I will interject and tell you it. But it's not even that it's that it's been proven wrong. It's that someone's stopped my forward movement and I've gone that makes me need to pivot. They've just given me the wall of the mouse going through the maze that I hit. And that's okay, I need to pivot now.
Taking the idea of balance and traveling with somebody for a long period of time, have we talked about the idea of leveraging two people?
As in...
the idea of, think about it as a seesaw, that one person steps forward. So this is kind of like a co-op video game dynamic that doesn't exist strictly in video games.
So you're just saying better together?
Yes, I'm saying that that's what the statement above the function of it is. But let me describe the actual description in that. So...
Beautifully started.
Let
me describe the description.
Oh, fuck. Okay, two people, right?
Yes.
You and me are traveling together. You go down a different road than I do for a moment. And I say, well, I'm going to be at this coffee shop because I'm really interested in talking to this redheaded waitress. Or barista. That's what they call them nowadays. And you come back, and you're like, hey, man, this new street down the road that we just discovered, or I discovered, it's a street that's really cool. Come look at it. You've leveraged up like a seesaw, right? I've went down, you're up there. So now I go with you down that road, and I say, wow, you know what's really interesting about this road? It connects beautifully to this other road, which sends us further down the path. My point is that
two people building off each other.
Two people building off of each other, but in a really particular way. And the idea that two people as a team, as a two-person team, only focus on surpassing themselves when together, and every time one person outranks another in any area in a way that makes sense, outranking doesn't always make sense, but if I know something that you don't and it's valuable to you, then I feed you with that, and then you come back up, and then you better yourself.
It's interesting. It's very much so when I was going to school, they taught us in brainstorming an idea, when you're having a brainstorming session with people in a group. You use a yes and rather than a yes but strategy. So it's when someone puts out an idea, instead of pointing out what's wrong with it, you add on to it. You force yourself. You're even if you hate it, you're oh, what if we added this? And you're adding these little pivots to a point where you can get to flesh it out as far as it can go.
You actually
instead of shutting it down before.
You actually got something out of school. Sorry, go on.
It's again one of those things where it's something that I found they articulated something that I'd already been doing. Where it's the fun in brainstorming and creating something with someone else is just going down as far as you can down a path. That's how I grew. My humor with my friends in high school was someone would say something and everyone would add on something way more dark or fucked up or ridiculous on top of it until we've taken it as far as it can go. And that's how my humor was built. That's the foundation of it. And that sort of showed me that principle of it's more fun to build this idea up. So it's yes and. So it's that's a cool idea. What if we did this to it? And then the next person goes, ooh, that's kind of cool. What if we took it this way? And you end up taking things as far as they can go, like making them the best ideas they can possibly be. And then once you get to that point, then you move to the next idea.
You've referred to this idea several times, so I would take it that this would be a nugget of truth.
Sure, yeah. Like using a yes and. So it's taking it, removing it from yourself, putting it in the middle of the group, and talking about just the idea, and it's not connected to you at all anymore. So whether it's bashed or built on or whatever it is, the goal is to make the best thing you can. So the yes and just allows you to keep building, so you can take it as far as it can go. Like maybe the start wasn't good, but if you keep pivoting enough, you'll take it to a place where it needs to be. Rather than saying like, it doesn't work for these reasons, it's way easier to do that. Being like, what about this? Have you thought about this? Like even posing other questions to try to, basically you're just basically saying but. Like that's cool, but what about this? It stops the idea before it's fleshed out.
Right.
So if you want to flesh out an idea, you say yes and.
Huh. Oh, wait, so
and that's sort of the leveraging thing here. That fits perfectly into that.
It definitely does.
Yeah.
I mean but I mean the thing is that yes and yes but. Are you getting more bubbles?
Yeah. Going?
Yes. The thing is that yes and yes but both play a part in true leveraging, in my opinion, because you're making so yes but revision, editing, yes and creation.
Yeah. Okay.
So
yes,
those are the two parts of
yes but comes in after works.
Okay.
So once you've taken an idea as far as it can go,
then you say
then
yes,
you
but,
start to
and then
edit.
you reduce it down to
so like
done.
when you're in the creative process. So when you're brainstorming, all you're doing is trying to create and come up with ideas. Yes, but comes after you've.
Oh, I see.
Once you've chosen one, like, ooh, let's go forward with that. Then you try to break it down and see if you can break its foundation.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, I told you about. I like this idea of just reducing things into nuggets of truth, and those are just the memories you keep. You know what? Fuck, man.
So yeah, that's what I remember in creative product. You remove it from yourself, and yes, and like that. That's what I keep in my head.
You treat memory like it's supposed to be treated from an evolutionary standpoint. Let me explain that, because I just sucked your dick in 3 different ways. First off, right? What's the purpose of memory? To learn from your mistakes. But what's included in that? What's another reason why you have memory? Well, because you remember things that are of use to you to persist, to survive.
Sure.
Right? How many fucking memories do you have? I'll speak for myself. How many memories do I have that are just of me, unhappy, just no use? Just a memory that is me being yelled at by my mom, or by a boyfriend of hers, or a bad moment with an ex, or breaking my leg or something. A lot.
Yeah.
Most of them are not of any use to me. And the way you're approaching memory, I just want to say, you're a fucking memory architect, dude. All right, anyways.
Exactly. But it's biologically, we're created so negative things are imprinted into our memory.
Of course.
Because it's what allows us to not do them.
But see, the thing is, that could be useful. The thing is, right, a negative memory could be useful, but it's not unless you reflect on it. So I have a negative memory, unless I say, if you do these certain things, this happens. That's
unless you pull the nugget out of that memory.
Exactly.
Yes.
You're still fucking pulling a nugget, though.
Yeah.
So in a weird way, you're whether or not you've done this intentionally, tried optimizing memory.
So here's another one of my nuggets is I always go for simplicity. Right. So the simplest thing to do is to remember as few things as possible that can be applied to the most situations. Right? So if I can remember one little nugget of wisdom that can apply to 10 different possible paths I can go down, rather than 10 different, remembering one thing for this path, one thing for this path. If I can even contract all 10 of those things into one, I've now simplified. So now I can remember less things. I have room for 9 more nuggets.
I mean, dude, it sounds very Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah. I've always said simplicity equals beauty. I think they're the same thing.
Well, even the words you're using, calling it nuggets of truth.
Yeah.
Why not call it capsules of
yeah,
truth?
you could have some long-winded description.
Yeah.
That's I've always just naturally condensed and simplified things into as few words as possible, which is obviously what's led me into marketing.
For
I'm
sure.
good at that.
For sure.
I think it. Yeah, it's almost a way of it's like creating a diamond. You just keep adding pressure of all this amalgamous, dirty, mushy things, and eventually you get this beautiful diamond that you can show people and give to people. And I'm not going to tell you how you can crush all those things and make the diamond, but if you get to that diamond, I know it's true.
Yes.
You've given that diamond consensus.
You're refusing to show them the way because, oh my god, that's fucking clever.
It's a give a man a fish, teach them how to fish.
Not even just that. In other words, you can't. This is fucking man. The system is self-referential again, self-proving. So the only way that you can prove to yourself that the diamond is a true diamond,
it's actually a diamond, yeah, rather than a Swarovski
is
crystal,
by not guiding someone to it.
Yeah, if they can get there on their own.
If a path can be made to it, even if it's on the same path as yours, you can fucking prove. You've proven to yourself that's be made to it. It's
so weird because I've never articulated it before.
Right.
But I've always, like, if I felt that I knew someone that someone else didn't, I'll never tell them. I'll just tell them like that, like a sentence. And if they eventually go like, remember that sentence you told me a year ago just popped into my head and it totally clicked into this moment in my life.
Yes.
I know that's an actual diamond.
Yes.
I know it's an actual nugget of wisdom. If I put out a couple nuggets and they never come back to me, it's like putting it out in the cosmos. If they never return, that's how I know what I can remove, take out of the glass. That can overflow.
But you're not doing this consciously, are you?
No, not at all.
Think about this for a second. You're describing a fucking maybe I'm just your transcriber, but like, you're describing a very elaborate system.
Sorry to stop you, but that's seeing my brain as a glass.
Yeah.
And things overflowing when you pour more water. It's a full glass, and pouring more water, it means something coming out. That's a nugget. That's the way I think about my brain.
That's good.
Yeah. But, sorry, what were you saying?
Well, I was going to say that I'm virtually your brain transcriber right now, because you're describing in hindsight a system that is elegant, that...
But I've never thought of it as elegant. Like, I've never... Yeah, for sure you're transcribing. Because, again, it's I just kept pivoting until things made sense. Because I always want things... I'm lazy. That's really what it all comes down to.
Right.
I'm a fucking lazy person.
Sure.
Naturally. So, like, if things...
That's a simplification.
Keeping something simple is less work. I've always just been trying to do less work.
Yeah.
That's really the core of what caused this beautiful system to be created.
Well, I mean, dude, but I mean, you're giving it a different meaning here, because you're giving it a meaning that is laziness when that's efficiency. Efficiency is using the least amount of resources to perform the task.
Bill Gates. He says, always give your most difficult tasks to your laziest employees because they'll find the easiest way to do it.
That's fucking good.
Yeah.
That's
like seeing lazy as a virtue.
Yeah.
Well, it goes back to the other episode. It's like every quality has a negative and a positive.
Every quality is virtuous in some way.
Using laziness, that's superpower where I'm facing it in the right direction.
Yes.
It's positive.
Yes.
So it allows me to open my eyes and shoot the laser fully in that direction. So if I keep things simple, that is a positive way to use laziness. Like efficiency is a positive. Like finding the most efficient way to do something.
Laziness
is a positive way.
Efficiency.
Yeah, is a positive way to use laziness.
I mean, because the thing is action and laziness don't really go together, but action and efficiency do.
Sure.
So I'm saying that on the positive end,
yes,
efficiency
the other
results
side,
in action.
Other side of the same coin.
Laziness results in more laziness.
Yeah, but like my laziness requires efficiency.
So let me ask you. I mean, how do you? I mean, I'm a great example right now. I'm trying to articulate something to you that I'm really over describing in my brain before I even describe it to you, as I describe it to you. How do you simplify performance, living? How do you do that? Is it just by pivoting and experiencing and not thinking as much? Because, I mean, it sounds to me like that's exactly how you got to such an elegant and like self-proving system.
Yeah, it's the spaghetti method, right? So I'm throwing all these things at the wall. So like I might find something that I think is a nugget, and I'll start using it. And again, if it never comes back to me, or it never clicks with someone else, or someone else, there's no consensus to the nugget, I just get rid of it. And then I look for a new nugget. And I only keep the most central ones are the ones that get the most consensus, the ones that are affirmed by others the most often.
Can people act as nuggets? Relationships?
I can use my nuggets in the relationship.
Right.
I don't know if the relationship can allow me to stumble upon a nugget. Like the relationship can be a pivot that allows me to stumble upon a nugget.
Right.
For sure.
But I mean, what if a relationship is only impeding you from reaching nuggets of truth?
it's probably not a good relationship.
Right, but then...
That's kind of why my last one ended.
Right. Well, I mean... I'm looking at all of this right now from an information theory standpoint. And it's making it hard not to be excited. It's making it hard, especially, not to be excited about this nuggets of truth thing. Because if every concept that you hold on to, that you think is worth sharing, is based on consensual reality, and that little nugget is aiming for consensual reality, for agreement, for actual consensual truth, then that, to me, if anything, is one of the more optimal ways to spread information.
For sure.
So, I mean, you're describing
there's also
what I would hope...
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
It's all good. I mean, you're describing what I would hope to hear from an NPC in a game, or from a person on the street in real life. I want, when I'm in the game, I don't want to just walk up to an NPC and they're like, today's foggy. And I'm like, great. I walk up to somebody else and they're like, the quest item. And I'm like, thank you. Essential nugget, bam.
Yeah.
Person on the street, hey man, how do I get to place? And they're like, well, my daughter's drug addicted. And you're like, no, I'm asking where the place is. Versus the other guy you meet on the street who says, it's there.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Maybe I'm just stroking off the concept, but I love it.
Well, I also want to point out too that like I'm not coming up with all of these nuggets. Like I'm not this like creation force. But what I'm doing,
your view of it is good.
But I just want to clarify what I'm actually doing here.
Okay, sorry.
It's sort of earlier how we were talking about looking at your identity and yourself agnostically, where all I'm doing is listening to other people, and if there's a sentence that they say, or a little nugget that I can pull from something that someone else says that really clicks with something that I've experienced or something that I think is true, that's how I'm getting these nuggets. So then I'll put that into my cup,
right,
and then I'll present that, or refine it, or condense it, or pivot it, and then push that out to someone else. And if that clicks with someone else, then that gives it consensus. So it's not like I'm here making these genius wisdom diamonds, but I'm pulling them from a bunch of other sources and trying them out. And that's what pivoting is when someone says something that I like, I'm like, ooh, I'm going to face that way.
Yes.
That's the pivot.
I mean, two things. One, humble response, modest response.
I'm not a creative force. I'm not creating these things. I'm editing.
You're fucking editing the world.
Yes, I'm editing the world. Yes,
and I commend you for it. But the second thing I thought was, on the spot. I mean, what a great moment for the podcast, because this is in an aspect what this fucking podcast is about. It's about spreading actual valuable nuggets. Like, okay, we experiment, we process information through dialogue while recording, fun. And sometimes we don't necessarily get to the point. But you, somebody who has a ton of nuggets gathered through time, they're not all yours. I mean, none of them are really. You just gathered them. Me also, gathered for myself mostly because I've not explored the world as much.
But you've thought way more than I have.
Yes, I have. But also, dude,
you've explored concepts and you've explored the world of theories, and you've explored other worlds that I've never even know existed.
For sure. But the problem is that those other worlds, there is not consensus. Because no one else is in there but me. So maybe I'm just being humble and modest too.
Well, but you get your senses through conversation. Like when you go this is an idea I was thinking about, and someone goes that makes sense. Or ooh, I get that. That's how you get yours.
Which seems ironic,
kind of consensus.
Because why the fuck, if that's the case for me, haven't I been traveling the world since the beginning? Because I mean, no, I'm not putting down regrets here. I'm just saying you're so right. My understanding of the concepts I have as being true is
when someone else can see that concept
so much, and you would think then that I would, so that's partially why I want to go out right now.
Again, dude, you're not late.
Oh, I know. And I'm fucking glad for that.
Yeah. I'm
glad they don't have any, I don't know, life-threatening illness. I mean, I don't know if
David's 21.
Hey, guys.
But yeah, you're not late. You're, again, you're starting right around when I started.
Right.
Right. So like you're.
Yeah. When did you? When was it exactly?
I mean, I grew up. Always like I was on. My parents put me on a plane when I was like 9 months. Like all of our trips, like we didn't like go like we.
Are you describing your travel superhero origin story?
Yeah. Like when my families went on vacations, we wouldn't like go to a place. We'd all pile in the car with tents and camping stuff, and we'd drive fucking 10 hours somewhere. We'd camp there for a couple of days. Like that's what I know. Like that's how I was raised. Of like you get in the car, and you get on the road, and you go to a place that's beautiful, and like and it gives you it gives you truth.
If there's ever been a better case for your learning environment being the foundation for your decisions through life, it's stories like that, and mine too. I mean, I grew up in a room. I never fucking went camping when I was a kid. I just spent my time in an apartment. It was so dark in there, I got realized. Like, it was really not light out.
It so clearly explains how we became who we are now.
100%.
Yeah.
You know? And, I mean, it's taken me a long time to not... It's taken me a while not to judge that or to value that. Because, the whole issue, in my opinion, or my experience... when I over-explain things, when I can explain things to, in my mind, the extent that they can be explained, they become frustrating, not invaluable, non-valuable. And so part of me is like, oh man, of course I like being alone. Of course I like thinking. I was sheltered to a really creepy degree. But once you begin to see yourself as the thing that you are, as just information passing through the world, you can let go of that. And actually, real quick, the system that we're talking about allows for that too. Because, like in your case, right? I asked you, are you passing on helpful nuggets, basically? It doesn't matter. Like, you're doing that either way. You're doing that passively. Like, there is no greater meaning to you necessarily, or me, I don't think, as of now. But we're just passing through. So, like, I'm trying to say that my like predisposed notions of reality and stuff, and my living based on my childhood doesn't matter, because I'm just a clone who is adapting to information.
For sure, and what it does too is sort of looking at your life as this outwards expression looking for consensus of things inwards. Is like it takes it outside of you. It's not about you. Mm-hmm. Like I said, with when you're brainstorming, is you remove the idea from yourself and you put it in the middle of the table, and then it's about the idea, right? And it's not about you anymore, and that's how you make it the best thing, because there's no value judgments of like, is this about me? Is this saying a bad thing? Like it doesn't. It makes it objective. Yes. Right. Yeah. So like it's making your life objective, and that's kind of what the whole Masaka thing is too. It's taking it outside of yourself, making it objective, so you can look at it without being self-conscious about if that's about you, or if you're thinking about it the right way, or if it's wrong, or if it's right. It's just an object that you can now look at in a totally unself-absorbed way and actually see it for what it is.
Definitely. Totally agree. Yeah. And on that quiet bombshell,